All right, so one thing I want to do real quick just to make sure it's on. I'm going to go to my health slider, and I'm just going to make sure the value is up to 100, just so it starts out full. Otherwise, it'll be empty until we get hit, and then it'll go to wherever number it's supposed to go to. So I just want to make sure that's 100%. Okay, so now what we want to do is, let's go ahead and minimize that. I just want to hook this up so that it's actually working. And we're actually not going to really need to make a script for that. We're just going to go ahead and use the player stats script, because all these are kind of involved with the player stats. So I'm going to go to my scripts, and then we'll just go to the player stats, and we'll use this. Oh, and it went over there. Just pop this up here. And close that. And I don't have a lot of things in this, apparently. Okay, so you can see that all we really have in here is, oh, thank you, is the player health. So the other thing I want to do in here is have another variable that's going to hold my enemies killed. So we'll do public float enemies killed, and we'll set that initially equal to 0. And actually, that should be an int, not a float. Int, right? Because you can't do a half an enemy. And we'll start that with 0. That looks good. The other thing I need to do is I need to be able to access the various UI components. So if we look in here, right, these are all UI elements. So I need to import basically the Unity engine UI. So up here we're going to do using Unity engine .ui. All right, so that'll allow me to use using Unity engine. Now I want to be able to access those actual things now that I can use them. So we have to make something for each one of those. So we'll do public slider, because that's a slider. And that'll be the player health slider. Okay. So that's how we'll get to the health slider. We'll do public, text. And that we'll just call this timer text. Oops. Okay. And then we'll do public another text. And that will be the now a capital, sorry. Enemies killed text. Okay, so and the panel. So and then public image, and that will be the damage panel, is what we'll call that. Okay. Now the reason why this one's image and the other ones are text is actually when we're accessing those. If you look here, I'm not actually accessing the objects. I'm accessing a component. So for instance, the timer text. This is the object timer text. I'm getting the text component, right? And even when we do the health slider, it's the slider component. And then when I do the panel, there's no panel component. I'm going to take this image, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color. I'm going to make it clear or not clear. And that's how we're going to do the other thing. So that's why you'll notice that that one is image and not panel. It's because there's no panel thing that we're changing. It's actually just that. Okay. The other thing I want to do is this, and this actually deals with the image panel. So I'm going to do a public float, and we're going to do damage panel, or I'm sorry, damage flash speed, and we'll do 0.5f. So the idea here is that I want the, that's actually way faster. Let's do 0.25. What we're doing here is that I want the damage to flash on and flash off. So this is how long that red is going to show up. So right now it's on there, but it'll actually be clear. But that's what it's going to be. And then the other thing I need to do is a public color, and that will be the damage flash color. So this will allow me to choose the color that I want it to turn into, right? So right now we just made that red. I'm going to probably choose the same color, but I need to have that in order to tell it to do that. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is we already have this one for the player health adjustment. I'm going to, I made all these variables. I need to hook them up, right? So that's what we're going to do first. So we're going to do a void awake. Okay. Like, put a 0 in there. And then we're just going to basically hook up each one of these things. So we'll do the player health slider. Player health slider will be equal to game object dot find quotes, and then I need to, what's the name of the game object, and I called it health slider, right? So that's what I want, health slider, and then it's going to be the slider of that. So this is the name. I'll Control C and copy that name just to make sure that it's exactly right. So we want Control V, health slider. So we'll find the game, and then inside of that, I want to get component, and the component I want to get is going to be the slider component, like that. Okay, so basically we'll get the slider component of the slider object and stick it inside of this health slider. And that's what we're going to do for the rest of the thing. So let's go ahead and do the timer text. So timer text will be equal to game object dot find. And the game object I need to find is, again, I'm just going to look on here, and it was just timer text. Okay, so it's just timer text. Timer text. And dot get component. The component I want to get is a text component, like so. And I'm just going to copy and paste this because the other one's going to be pretty much the same thing. Control C, Control V, except it's not going to be timer text. It's the enemies killed text. Enemies killed text. And I don't know what I named it, so enemies text is what I named it. So Control C, just make sure it's exactly the same. So I'm just going to replace what we're searching for, Control V, and it's still going to be the text component. And then the last thing is that image panel. So the damage panel is going to be equal to game object dot find, and the game object, again, just want to make sure these are all 100%. So I didn't rename this one, so let's call this damage panel, which is I think what it's called in there, but it's a capital D, so it's different. Control C. All right, so we'll look for damage panel, and then dot get component, and if you remember, it is a image component. So boom, image, boom. All right, great, and that seems good. All right, so I don't think I need to do that. Okay. So that's just going to hook up all of our things to begin with. I want to do one other thing real quick over here too. I'm going to take the damage panel, just go to the color here, and we're just going to make it 100% clear. Just so that we don't start with a color, because that's kind of weird for there to be a color there. So just select damage panel, go to the color, and just take the alpha all the way to 0. Okay. All right, so that's fine. Now what I want to do is hook up some of these things. So the easiest one to hook up or to do initially is actually just going to go ahead and be the timer text, the timer. So just right after awake, I'm just going to go ahead and do one of those built-in ones, and it'll be void update, because I'm going to have it update every frame, what frame we're on, and enter that into the text. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say timer text dot text, the text of the timer text. So this is kind of weird because it's a text UI element, right? You're like, oh, this is text UI. Then it has a text element, and then inside of the text element is a text property. So our text component is a text property. So it's like text. So yeah, it's kind of weird, but that's why it's text dot text, because we're actually trying to change that specific property to a value that we're going to give it. And we're just going to go ahead and say time alive, boom. Oh, and I put that, so it's supposed to be in quotes, sorry. Quotes, time alive, and then space, quotes, and then we're concatenate, which just means we're going to combine two strings. So it's going to be math, f dot round to int, and we're just going to do time dot time, okay? So what that's saying is that math f is just a method we can run that's built into, I don't know if it's built into Unity or if it's built into C#. I think it might be C#, but either way, it's one of the things you can run, and it has a, it's an object, sorry, and then it has a method that we can run called round to int, so it'll take a float, because time's a float, and it's going to round it to an int. The reason I want to do that is otherwise when I'm looking at the clock here, it's going to be like 13.1 through 5, 13.4, it's just going to be a really long number. This will round it to an int, so it'll make it a whole number. That's why when we were looking at this earlier, and I was like, oh, it actually, where was that? It actually has, oh, that was the slider, but anyway. So that's why we're doing that. Okay, so, yeah, so that should work right there. Let's actually just go ahead and save this and just make sure this part's working, because this is going to be multiple videos anyways, just to get this guy to go. So we're going to save it, and then once it's done compiling, I'm going to pause it. Once it's done compiling, we'll play it and make sure it's working. All right, I'm just going to hit play, and I'm just looking at the time alive. I just want to make sure that that's working. And actually, it's not going to, and I'll show you why. Oh, no, it will work. I'm sorry. I thought I was dragging in, but it should work. Yeah, so see it says 1, 2, so now it's just gonna count. Okay. Nothing else is working, but those are working, which is fine. All right. Yay. All right. While we're doing this, let's just go ahead and we will add, we'll make our health bar work. That should be a relatively simple thing. Okay, so what time are we at? Actually, yeah, we'll call that good on this one. And the next one, I will work on doing the health bar.